Alrighto, and welcome back to a big week of flat racing for all you flat racing fans out there. It's the week of Royal Ascot. I'm sorry I've been a bit late getting up this day one preview, so it's going up here on the Monday night. It's currently 7 o'clock on the dot Monday night, with Tuesday racing starting tomorrow, and it should be a brilliant week. Obviously, it's going to be a lot different to our usual Royal Ascot. For some, it might be a little bit better, less fashion advice on ITV and all the likes, but you know, it is different. It's different times, but hopefully we can still enjoy it as much as usual, and hopefully if we back a few winners, it will seem like a great week ahead of us. It's a tough card. It's a tough 5 cards, obviously up to 36 races this year rather than the usual 30. So we're going to need our fingers crossed. If we're being honest with ourselves, the tips have been probably inconsistent at best. I would agree with that. As I've said to you guys before, though, I'm no ace tipster, unfortunately. I wish I was, but I'm not. Just to have a little look back at the Guineas, because I'm sure some of you might think, what did you think of the Guineas? I thought Siskin was really good. Obviously, it was a tactical enough race in terms of them trying to box Siskin in, but he did superbly to win from where he was. He looks a very good horse. Hopefully you will see him in a Sussex Stakes, and that's really probably going to be the asset test for his ability. Immediately after the race, I wasn't sure about the form. I still amn't, but we'll obviously have to see that. I do like Siskin, and I do like the connections, so you couldn't begrudge that. And obviously Peaceful was very good herself. In regards to Albania, I said it on Twitter exactly after the race. Obviously very disappointing. I'm one of her big fans, so of course I'm going to be a bit biased in terms of what I think in comparison to some people, but I just thought a lot of the criticism was completely unjustified. There's a lot of people throwing shapes at her saying, oh, Alpha Centauri this, Alpha Centauri that. Look, at the end of the day, Alpha Centauri couldn't run on soft ground, and she was absolutely superb on fast ground. You look at Albania, probably she can't run on very fast ground. You know, she's not great on very fast ground. Put her on a bit of softer ground next time out, I'd be ploughing in again, I must confess. I still thought there was a lot of promise to the run, and I don't know what you guys thought, to be honest. I just didn't think she deserved the criticism she got on Twitter. You know, all this, oh, what a bust, you know, don't believe the hype sort of stuff. I wouldn't buy that at all. I'd certainly be giving her another chance. Look, if she bombs out next time out, then maybe I've just sided with the wrong horse, but I think there's still plenty to come from her, maybe just on a bit softer in time. But that's enough rambling about the Guineas. You're here for Royal Ascot, so very sorry if I've rambled on for 3 minutes there. But we start off tomorrow with the 1:15 7 furlong Buckingham Palace Handicap, a new race back into this over 7 furlongs to, I think, help out the overall, you know, different types of handicaps that are going to be over the week. If you have a little bit of a pot for the week, I don't know how you guys bet it, I wouldn't be putting much on this sort of a race, to be honest. There's going to be races like this all week that are going to be absolute minefields. If you back one winner of these types of handicaps, you'll be doing all right. I know some people have already talked him up a little bit, but I'm going to take a bit of an each-way squeak on Greenside here. He's 20 to 1 in some places, 16 to 1 in a lot of other places. Henry Candy and Marco Gianni takes the ride. He's off a Marco 99, but Marco takes off 5, so he's running up, in effect, off a 94. Now, this horse is a 9-year-old, so he doesn't have much scope for improvement. But you looked at it last week with the Lincolnshire, and I put up Barrowman, who on the face of things didn't look like he was up to much improvement at the age of 6, and still absolutely hacked up. So I wouldn't really look into that too much. He's quite lightly raced for a 9-year-old when you think about it. He was second to Kinran in a course and distance handicap at the end of last year. He won off a Marco 94 last summer as well, which is in effect what he's running off tomorrow. So he does have the ability to win off this type of mark. He has the big field experience of these handicaps. The favourite, Derrick, good horse, potentially too good for these, but I don't know whether he's really got the experience for a race like this, and I'd be giving him a wide berth. And if he goes and does it, fair enough, but he's a very short price for what he is. The 150 is the Queen Anne, and I think this is almost the bet of the day, really, in Circus Maximus. Still available at 11 to 4 with some bookmakers, this son of Galileo. And the reason I say I think he's the best bet of the day is I think he's genuinely the only really good Group 1 horse in this field. I think it's a pretty wavy Queen Anne. The only horse I could see potentially beating him is Terabellum, but she's second favourite and still has a fair bit to find. This horse won the St James's Palace on this day last year. He won the Prix de Moulin, and he was also placed in a Breeders' Cup Mile. He's got all the form in the book. A lot of these are Group 2, Group 3 horses in my book, and I think 11 to 4 is a fairly big price. And if he's well forward, I just can't really see him getting beat over the straight mile. The 225 is the Ribblesdale. It's a race again I wouldn't be having much of a big play in, but I would side maybe with a little bit for Miss Yoda at 13 to 2. It's not much of an each way price, so I couldn't really advise it each way, to be honest. I know a lot of you guys, maybe some of you would back each way at 13 to 2, but it is short for that. Rab Havlin takes the ride for John Gosden. This see the Stars filly actually overcome a lot going wrong at Lingfield for the Lingfield Fillies trial, which Annapurna won last year before winning the Oaks. A lot went wrong that day, ended up winning by a length and a quarter to Golden Lips. Now, Golden Lips is no type of yardstick, really, so the form does look poor. But, as I said, a lot went wrong. There still is a lot of improvement to come from this filly, I'm almost convinced. The problem in this race is Frankly Darling. Obviously, Frankie takes the ride. I can see why he's taking the ride. Obviously, a Frankel filly, Anthony Oppenheimer. There's a bit of history there for Frankie Dettori. So, and also the name itself, Frankly Darling. I just think there's a lot potentially going for that filly. It wouldn't surprise me if that filly was to hack up. But I do like proven form, and Miss Yoda represents more value at 13 to 2 than the short odds about the favourite. The 3 o'clock is the King Edward, and you guys know how much in high regard I rate this Mogul who's running here. He's best odds 5 to 6 at the moment, this Galileo colt out of a Dane Hill mare. And he's a really big fancy of mine for the Derby. As I've said all year, it's been between Mogul and Inish Free for the Derbies if they do rock up in those sort of races. If I'm being honest, as I've said a couple of times before now, if you really like Mogul, I think the value play tomorrow is to back him for the Derby at 9 to 1. If you think he's a good horse like me, I'd take the 9 to 1, because if he wins tomorrow, he becomes a 5 to 1 shot. Even if he runs well, it'll contract in price. I would fancy doing that more than weighing in at 5 to 6. Realistically, he's going to be my selection for the race, because I think he's the best horse in the race. I think he's the most likely winner of the race. But I think it's more of a prudent back, if you do like him, like me, to back him for the Derby rather than weighing in at this price. The reason I say that is he's been tricky to get fit. And I do think this has been Plan B. Plan A must have been running in one of the trials last week in Leopardstown or in the Cur on Friday. He could have run in the Gallinule, he could have run in the Derrenstown. He didn't run in either of them. I think it's been a race against time, and he should come on loads. And I do stress loads for this run. So if he does win tomorrow, which hopefully he will, I do think he'll be a better horse come the Derby, and that's when our 9 to 1 might look a bit good. The 335 is the King's Stand. Now, I hate after timing, and I've been humming and hawing whether I should after time or not. But anyway, if you watched any of the Racing Central videos, you'll know that I managed to back Battash at 3 to 1 for this race a couple of weeks ago. He's now 4 to 5. He's a very short price. It takes a brave man to go and back Battash at odds on. Again, it's like Mogul. He's going to be my selection for the race because I think he's the most likely winner, and because I'm on at 3 to 1, it kind of feels good. But I can understand why people maybe are looking for an each-way alternative. If I was to give you one, maybe Liberty Beach. She still has a lot to find, but I didn't have a great week punting the first week back in England, and she was one of the very few horses that did win for me. So there's a bit of sentimental attachment there. She does have a heap to find, though, and but it is a simple. If Battash turns up on his A game, he wins this race, and he could win this race really superbly. I don't agree with people wanting Battash to lose. I can understand you backing something each way, and if it wins, happy days and stuff like that. But Battash winning would be the best result for racing, in my opinion, because he's the only horse that can win this race really, really impressively, and that's what the sport needs. So Battash, let's hope he gets his day in the sun at Ascot tomorrow in the King's Stand. The 410, the Duke of Cambridge. For a mile Group 2 for fillies and mares, I'm going to take a chance here on the Charmadale filly Queen's Power, around 6 to 1 the price. Second to Terabellum, so we'll be interesting to see how that form works out from the Queen Anne. She was progressive enough last year. She was 4th in the Ribblesdale behind Star Catcher, but this is a really fresh and free filly. She does travel very strongly in her races, so this drop back down to a mile is very interesting and potentially could be a fantastic bit of placing from Michael Stout if it works out as planned. She ran over a mile too, as I said, when second to Terabellum. She was probably the one horse of that Newmarket card that day that came from off the pace to have any sort of a challenge. So I think she's a good filly, really, and this drop to a mile is very interesting. The favourite in this race is Jubilee, so she's a filly I really can't have, to be honest. She doesn't win when she should. Now, she'll probably make me look like I've got complete egg on my face tomorrow if she hacks up, but she's not a filly that interests me, and I think she's a poor enough price at 3 to 1. Her Coronation Stakes run was really good, but other than that, she ran an absolute stinker in the Atalanta at Sandown when she should have won, and for that reason I couldn't be touching her. The 440 is the final race on the card, the Ascot Stakes, which looks a bit of a hole without the likes of a Thomas Hobson or a Palisator or, some Irish dual purpose horse. Verdana Blue, obviously an excellent mare over hurdles, won a Christmas hurdle at Kempton, beating Bouverdare, obviously fairly infamously, when Nico de Boinville didn't seem to be particularly keen on winning. But anyway, she comes in here, she's 3-4 to 1, looks a little short to me, considering I still think there's a bit of stamina doubts about her. And I really like this Mark Prescott horse, Land of Oz, son of Australia, was really progressive last year. Type of Mark Prescott horse, running in 7 furlong mile maiden races as a 2-year-old when he's a 2-mile horse. Went from a mark at 58 to now running off 93. But I was really, really impressed with his return at Chelmsford only last week when second to Collide. Collide is a very impressive, progressive horse for Hugo Palmer, and he's in front of some really good all-weather horses like Clap Your Hands, is it? David Simcock's horse. There was also a few other decent enough horses in that race, and he shied off the rail turning in and probably relinquished 2 lengths in that move and lost the race by 1.5 lengths. I think he's got one of these big fields handicaps in him, and he's a really stout stayer, so the 2.5 miles will be right up his street. 10 to 1 looks not a bad each way price. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video, and if you have any fancies for day 1 of Royal Ascot, do let me know down below in the comments, and of course subscribe to the channel if you're new around here for a lot more of this type of action. Until next time, which will be the day 2 preview tomorrow, and hopefully we'll have back some winners at that stage. Be lucky, hopefully you'll land a few, and I'll see you guys then. Cheers.